I'm going to be presenting our paper called Observations on Virtual Reality Avatar Alignment with Research Participants' Skin Tone and Gender. My name is Kristin Bartlett, and I'm from the University of Kentucky, USA. My co-author on the paper is Claudia Krogmeier, who's from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, also in the USA. First, I'm going to provide some of the theoretical framings that provide the background for our paper. One of them is design justice. Design justice is a framework for analysis of how design distributes benefits and burdens between various groups of people. Two is post-colonial computing, which is a lens to consider the challenges associated with bringing technologies to new cultural contexts. And the third is Afrofuturism. Alondra Nelson said, "Blackness gets constructed as always oppositional to technologically driven chronicles of progress." Many of you are probably familiar with the argument that VR technology tends to be designed around the interests and needs of weird people, especially men. And weird stands for Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. Here are some examples. The interpupillary distance of headsets fits more men than women. Most VR research participants are men, and headset straps are not accommodating to hairstyles of Black women. In the present work, we are expanding this line of inquiry to look at the avatars used during VR research studies. Here are the methods that we used in this paper. This paper is a literature review style paper, but it is an informal literature survey to look for initial findings, not a formal systematic review. We attempted to find a set of studies which we could perform further analysis on. We gathered studies only between the years of 2016 and early 2023 when we did our analysis. We looked for studies that required participants to embody a humanoid VR avatar, either the full body avatar or hands. We wanted avatars that had enough detail to depict skin color and markers of gender. So, for example, we would not use a study that had an avatar that looked like an alien or a robot. It needed to look like a person. We use Google Scholar to identify papers, and we use search terms like virtual reality, avatars, avatar realism, avatar embodiment, gender, and race. And we included in our analysis the first 40 studies that we found that met our 3 search criteria. Here are the questions that drove our analysis. 1, was the skin tone or race of participants reported? 2, was the gender of participants reported? 3, were avatars provided to match participant race and/or gender, assuming the study design did not preclude this? One way where the study design might preclude that would be if the study was intentionally trying to assess what would happen if somebody embodied an avatar that didn't match their own identity. Here are our findings about reporting participant gender. 39 out of the 40 studies reported participant gender, indicating that researchers were very comfortable reporting this information. Only one study that used full-body avatars did not try to match participant gender, and that study used instead a man avatar for everyone, and said that the population was restricted to male users because the realistic virtual hand was from a male avatar. Studies on certain topics used only women participants. So unlike that study that used only men participants because they were matching the avatar, the studies that used only women participants were studying topics of body image and eating disorders, emotional responses, and racial bias. And you can look at these things and wonder, why would they only use women participants? For the first 2, it maybe has to do with our stereotypes and beliefs about women. And the third one is less straightforward. Here are findings about avatar personalization. All but one study using full-body avatars attempted to match participant gender. Only 17% of studies personalized avatars beyond a binary gender match. No studies talked about how they would handle a non-binary or gender non-conforming participant, and none of them discussed offering any avatars like that. But among the studies that were personalizing avatars, they were not necessarily skin tone matching. Only 10% of studies used some kind of skin tone matching. Virtual hands were also less likely to provide gender-differentiated options. Here are findings about reporting participant race. Only 11 out of the 40 studies reported participant race. Remember, that's in contrast to the 39 out of 40 that reported participant gender. Of those that did report participant race, 7 of them reported using diverse participants, and 4 used all white participants. Why were the studies using all white participants? 2 of them were doing that because they were studying racial bias, so they were trying to control the race of the participants. And the other 2 were recruiting all white participants in order to match a white avatar. Studies nearly always matched avatar and participant gender, yet most used light-skinned default avatars for all participants. Note that many studies didn't report race, so we don't really know how many dark-skinned people were asked to embody a light-skinned avatar during the virtual reality research. Some studies excluded darker-skinned participants in order to match the avatar. This would be an example of explicit exclusion. Both implicit and explicit exclusion are serious problems that need to be addressed as we move our research forward. The lack of availability of diverse stock avatars appears to be a contributor to these problems. As we think about the way that we want to develop VR technology going forward, we can also look back to previous technologies that were developed. One is color film. Color film was originally optimized for white skin in the 1940s and 1950s, and it wasn't until the 1990s that this really began to change in a serious way. We also all probably know that facial recognition technology is less accurate on darker skinned people, again, because it was optimized for lighter skinned people. So how might we as a research community be similarly optimizing virtual reality technology for lighter skinned people? Here are some of the limitations in future work surrounding our paper. 1, we did not really explore intersectionality or think about what would happen when somebody did not match both race and gender at the same time. Another, we used Omi and Wynat's definition of race as formed in the United States, but race is understood differently in other geographic contexts. Also, we did not analyze other markers of race besides skin tone. So we did not analyze maybe facial features that could indicate a different race. And we did not see, I think only one paper talked about providing different races of participants, or different races of avatars. Finally, we should perform a systematic review, for example, using the PRISMA method, to confirm the findings in this paper. Here are recommendations for researchers going forward. Researchers should report race and/or skin tone of study participants. This is important for research ethics reasons and for validity reasons. Also, researchers need to provide more diversity in avatar options to the participants when the avatar is meant to represent the person. There's not going to be one neutral avatar that could represent every type of person that will be in the study. Some options of where to get avatars like this could be Make Human, Microsoft Rocketbox Avatar Library, or the Virtual Avatar Library for Inclusion and Diversity, also called VALID. Thank you so much for watching the presentation. Here are the references that were shown in the presentation, and all the full references are in the paper.